Hey, welcome to the live stream. If you have any questions about federal government jobs, the federal hiring process, USAJobs.gov, make sure you insert those in the chat below. We're going to be looking at some of the previously submitted questions, but I'm going to try to get to all the questions. Before we get started, I want to take a look at the hiring timeline. This is a question that's often asked. People want to know, how long does it take? So if you look at this initiative, this was put out a few years ago. This is ideal. What you'll see is you see the two yellow stars. The first one says closed job announcement, and then the last one says EOD, which is entry on duty. So these are all the steps. And ideally, in a perfect world, this entire process would take 80 days. So it says it right up here, 14 functions, 80 days. So before the job announcement close, it really doesn't have anything to do with you except for applying to the actual job. After the job announcement closes, this is where everyone has the questions. Like, how long is it going to take to get referred? How long does it take to get the interview? Well, ideally, you should get the referral probably about 16 days. 16 days, give or take, I would say 2 or 3 weeks. After that, the interviews and the reference checks should take another 2 weeks. So if you've done an interview and you're waiting to hear back, perfect world scenario, 2 weeks. But I always tell people wait 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, if you have not heard anything, then contact the human resource specialist that actually set up the interview and then ask them for a status update. So this is helpful information. It's public information. You just have to type in the hiring initiative. I believe it came out 2019. So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity on what the government is thinking when it comes to the timeline to hire. Okay, let's get into the questions. First question we have here, Queen D. If taking a local government job, would it affect higher GS grade when taking a federal job? If the local government job is a GS5, then I finally get an offer for a GS11 on the federal side. Would it take years to get that higher grade once federal? So this is a confusing question because local government at the state, county, or city level, that it wouldn't be on the GS pay band. So it would be on an entirely different pay band based on your location. You could be earning, let's say, $50,000 a year and do that for a couple of years and then apply on the federal side. And you could end up getting $100,000 a year. So the amount that you're making in your current government job that's at the local level, it is not going to have any relation to the job that you're able to get on the federal side. What matters in that position is not the salary, it's the skills and the experience you're able to get in that job. Here's another example. In the military, we have E4s, which don't make a lot of money. I guess probably around 50,000. It depends on how you calculate their income. But you have E4s that leave the Army and they're able to get a GS-13 position in some cases because of their IT skills. They have skills doing programming or cybersecurity. They can come in as a GS-13, especially in larger cities. So it doesn't matter that they were earning so much less at their previous job. And a lot of people don't want to include their salary on their federal resume because they feel like the agency or the government is going to use it against them and they will not be given a higher salary offer. And that's not true. They don't care if you've made $30,000 a year. They could still offer you $90,000, $100,000 a year, depending on your skills, abilities, and the experience you were able to attain at that last job. Okay, next question. Bree gotta be ask, I telework and currently have an exception beyond the 50-mile radius since I transferred. It's only a 2-mile difference. Can that exception be transferred if I apply for a higher position with the same department? It could be, especially if you're in a department that has the same authority level that signed your exemption. So anytime you have an exception to policy, usually you'll have some sort of memo that grants you authority or it gives you authorization to do it, right? So if there's a policy that says you have to live within 60 miles of the reporting station, then if you live outside of that, you would need to get some sort of approval authority to sign off on it. So if you're in the same department and that same authority figure that signed off on your exemption, if that's the same person, then it should carry over. But I would still contact your supervisor, talk to HR potentially, and see if that's possible. If you fall under a completely different hiring authority, then I would I would probably be more adamant in trying to get permission. So even within an agency, you'll have different departments and different offices. You could be reporting to, let's say, a deputy assistant secretary in one office. And then even though you're in the same sub-agency, there could be a completely different deputy secretary. So you would need to get that individual's approval. So it's kind of a complicated type of answer, but bottom line is contact your supervisor, contact HR. Next question is from Trish. Trish says, hello, Armand. Is it hard to transfer over job series? Is it a matter of just fixing your resume to that position? Specifically 0300, I just bought your book. You also helped me with my resume. So it shouldn't really be hard to transfer your existing experience to 0300 because 0300 is largely administrative. And almost everybody, if you work in like an office type position, whether it's engineering, whether it's finance, whether it's in education, instruction, you have administrative skills because you filled out spreadsheets, you looked at dashboards, you inputted information into databases, you've interacted with correspondence, so you've had to route things for signature. All of that is applicable administrative experience. So what HR is probably going to focus on more so than your title or your job series, they're going to be looking at the actual experience you were able to gain in that position. So the most important thing is just to structure your resume in a way that you can convey you have that relevant experience and you will be considered. So I'm not sure what job series you're at currently, but if you want to target 0300, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Now, if you haven't got the book yet, this is the book right here, Government Job Secrets. There's an example resume in here. There's some success stories in here. They have the formula that you need to implement in order to get the highest probability of attaining interviews and job offers. So make sure you pick up a copy of that. But thank you so much for your question. And we'll jump into the chat real quick. God's favor, good morning. Do you get government benefits while in the 1 to 2 year probationary period? Yes, as soon as you start. If this is a traditional regular government job. So if it's, if we're talking about something that's not intermittent, right? Because there's some positions, especially in FEMA, that are kind of intermittent where they only activate you if there's a disaster in the area. So the answer for that would probably be no. But if you have a traditional government job, then I would say as soon as you start your EOD, they're going to give you the paperwork to fill out for your insurance. They're going to give you the information for your TSP. Now, with your thrift savings plan, almost everybody will be in the life cycle fund when they first start out. So you probably want to get out of the life cycle fund because you have the G fund and the I fund mixed in there. So you have government securities like bonds. They don't grow very fast. You have the international fund, which is kind of a big question mark to me. What do we know about international markets? Not as much as we know about what's happening in this country. So I would probably go to the C and the S fund. But you'll have your TSP, you'll have your health insurance, you'll start accruing leave at a rate of 4 hours per pay period. So the way that leave works is after your first pay period, you'll earn 4 hours for your annual leave. You will earn 4 hours for your sick leave. Your annual leave, you can only have so much, but the sick leave, you can carry on indefinitely. And a lot of people end up having over a year of sick leave. They just keep stacking it. But yes, you do get your benefits as soon as you start in most situations. Drew, do you think DOGE will have a significant impact on current federal employees? It is unknown at this point what impact will be had. So everything that everyone says is all speculation. Even the people in charge of DOGE, even leaders that are coming in the new administration, everyone is speculating, right? There's going to be what appears to be, this is me speculating now, so don't take this as the gospel, but there's even some people that think that there is a dramatic plan, a radical change that is trying to occur, but it will be challenged at multiple levels. It will be challenged at the union. It will be challenged in Congress. It could be challenged in the Supreme Court. So nothing, I believe, will happen easy. Nothing will happen easy or one day to the next day. Nothing is going to happen that way. What I would say, if you have a government job or if you're pursuing a job that's clear, they have marketable skills, there's a demand. So a lot of jobs that are in demand, key indicators, there's a retention bonus, there's a recruitment bonus, there's a relocation reimbursement. If it has that, that means it's in demand. If it's in demand, they can't find enough people for those roles. If you have a job like that, I would feel a little bit more safe with it, right? Because even if something happens to that government job, those skills are still in demand regardless. So you're going to be able to pivot and go somewhere else. If you're working in DHS, let's say immigration or border patrol, I would feel safe about that. If I worked in DOD in certain areas, I would feel safe about that. But I don't think it's worth getting like incredibly anxious about it and worrying a lot about something that's outside of your control. So everyone should have a plan B. Everyone should look at what would happen tomorrow if this position no longer existed. What would I do? Who do I know? Ask yourself some of those questions. I think it will have some impact. I don't think it'll be as deep as a lot of people are envisioning. So that's a short way to answer that question. Steve. Good morning, Steve. Will my salary increase after accepting a conditional offer in July and should be accepting a final job offer in the next weeks after a government budget was approved? Will your salary increase? Well, there's a couple ways to look at this. We have a 2% pay raise probably going to hit January. So what is that, like 6 weeks away, 5 weeks away? We should have a 2% pay raise. If you're asking me, based on the tentative job offer you received in July, will your pay increase in January by 2%? The answer is yes, it will. If it's a GS job. If it's a WG job, no, because WGs don't get pay raises on January. They wait until the summer. Now, if you're asking about negotiating your pay, well, that's something that you should do immediately after you accepted your tentative job offer. That should have been done July and August. And if you haven't done it yet, I would do it now. The government budget, now we have the CR that expires next month. So that's going to be a huge question mark. But there should be enough support to get that through because nobody wants to pass. I'm not going to say nobody. Most of Congress does not want to pass a clean bill for the budget until after the president's in office. So we'll probably see another extension of the CR. I don't think there's a huge appetite to close the government down 1 week before Christmas, but it could happen. It could definitely happen. We'll have to see about that. Drew, I'm currently in the process of getting onboarded with a federal agency and DOGE has me worried. So the level of worry, once again, I would say would be depending on what agency and what type of position you're in. So folks over at the education departments are probably worried. Folks over there at the EPA, they're probably worried. But other agencies should fare better. There's so many variables to get into when it comes to what's the probability of the security of your job that all of it's probably just going to make you more anxious. So like I said before, I would focus on the things that you actually control at this point. All right, what do we have? Anne. Good morning, Anne. I am an intermittent employee. Should I submit my SF50 because I am not full-time? Thank you. So I would. It depends on how you're applying. If you're applying open to the public, there's no need to submit it. If you're applying as a current federal government employee, if they're asking you for it, you can consider submitting it. How long have you been an intermittent employee? Do you have significant achievements tied to that position? Because if you do and you want to put it on your resume, they're probably going to be looking for an SF50 to kind of support the time that you've been in government. So it really depends. I mean, what have you done in that position? That's the question I would ask myself, whether or not I would attach it. But you don't need to attach it if you're just targeting open to the public. If you're just targeting direct hire positions, you don't have to attach it. All right. Hello from New York. Hello. Remember the why. With the new administration coming in, what agencies should we avoid to increase job security? You can look at the agencies that have been talked about, that have been scrutinized, that have been targeted. I would start there. So there's a lot of people that, education department is probably number one that everyone's been talking about. EPA is up there. Department of Energy, one half of Department of Energy, not the second half, not the nuclear part, but the first part of Department of Energy has been talked about. FDA has been talked about. So, I pushed it out in the newsletter recently on the agencies that have, kind of been top of mind during this discussion. So if you're signed up to the free, that's another opportunity to sign up to the free newsletter down below. But if you have that, look, I send it out every week, every Thursday. So you can look 2 weeks back and you can find the newsletter. It talks about Trump in the headlines, so you should be able to find that. Okay. BW, in the event that DOGE is successful in bringing remote jobs back to the office, what kind of options would be available for employees? Okay, this reminds me, what happened recently is Vivek had an interview, and he was talking about he was talking about government employees not coming into the office. He said it was a dirty little secret, and I don't think it's really much of a dirty little secret. I'm going to show you the clip. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it, but I'm going to show you the clip, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on it really quick. So this is the clip.
Great point you just brought up. So here's the dirty little secret in the federal bureaucracy today. Most people don't even show up to work. So if you require most of those federal bureaucrats to just say, like normal working Americans, you come to work 5 days a week, a lot of them won't want to do that. And by the way, that creates a logic for many of those agencies being outside of DC in the first place. So these are, again, examples. It's a great point you just brought up.
I don't know if you guys could hear that, but
here's the dirty little secret.
That's what it was, the dirty little secret. So OMB put out a report. He put out a report, so you know exactly who's teleworking and who's remote working. And if you look at it, this report was put out this year over the summer. 54% of the federal government, they worked on site. So that means half of all government employees are actually working on site without the option of teleworking. And this is a lot of the workforce in the WG, the wage grade employees. They have to come to a physical office. And how many people remote work? 10%. 10% of the entire federal workforce, they're actually working completely at home. So it's not that over half are not even showing up, because even the ones that are teleworking, they're still coming to work 2, 3, even sometimes 4 days out of that week. So it's kind of, I understand that he probably had the best of intentions when he's communicating that, but I wouldn't categorize it as a dirty little secret since all the data information is present here in this report. So let's see. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question. Tisk. Question. I've been in the government for 20 years. If I start a new government job, will I still be on a 1-year probation? The answer is it depends. In some situations you will, in some situations you will not. More often than not, I would say you probably wouldn't be. But there are certain things, like if you jump to the DOD Cyber Acceptance Service, you're going to be on probation maybe for 3 years for a lot of people who get into the CES. If you get into a supervisory role, it could be a 2-year additional probation. But more often than not, if you have 20 years in the federal government and you're jumping into, like, let's say a similar position, maybe in a different agency, I don't imagine that you would, but I would definitely talk to HR about that. COLA increase for 2025. So it'll be probably around the week of Christmas where they announce the official approved pay raise. And then that's when we should see the COLA amount. I think COLA is at least going to be 0.5%. So it's 2% flat across the board, and then maybe 0.5% for COLA areas on average. We'll have to wait and see. Mohammed, hello. Good morning. All right, next question. Dana, I received a tentative job offer, DOD Army, waiting for a start date, interviewed for a position at DLA. When I receive a tentative job offer, can I start it and start the DOD position? So Dana, the main thing of concern here is if you accept a tentative job offer, you're going to go through a security process. So they're going to see if you are eligible for a secret clearance, if the position requires it. I'm going to assume because it's DOD in the Army, it probably has a secret clearance requirement. And if you accept another job offer, they cannot concurrently run 2 investigations. You can't have 2 investigations simultaneously. So one of the investigations is going to have to be on pause or eliminated. And then whatever investigation of the job that you actually want the most, that's the one that's going to take place. If you start, like, you can start your DOD Army job, and let's say the other job offer that comes in does not have a security clearance requirement, it's public trust or it's low risk, you can accept that, and that would have no impact. So at any point in time, if you wanted to jump from your Army job, from your DOD Army job, you could jump into the other job. So that's a possibility. Steve, thank you. Okay. All right, man, I'm falling behind on a lot of these questions. Grace, I want to say thank you. I got the NOAA job because I applied when you told me to. Thank you. You're welcome, Grace. Congratulations on your job offer. And Annie, not a good time to get a job in the Fed. Any job might be eliminated, especially if it's an alphabet or fluff job. Yeah, I mean, there's some merit behind what you're saying, but if everyone adopted the mentality of it's not a good time to get it, don't even apply, you're talking about thousands of people that are not applying that would otherwise apply. But because of the political environment, they're not going to apply. And let's say what ends up happening isn't the worst case scenario. So what ends up happening is what has happened in every administration, talking about conservative administration, which is they reduce the government by attrition, they do hiring freezes, and they try to reduce some of the budgets within the agency. But there's no meaningful, significant cut to the workforce. In that case, everybody who was scared and waiting on the sidelines, they never had an opportunity to get a higher paying job with benefits because they were worried because now is not the time. So I would be really weary about adopting the mindset of now is not the time. But I understand what you're saying. Tis, can you explain direct hire process? Direct hire, first off, all direct hire positions you're going to see are open to the public. So direct hire is something that you can apply to. It circumvents veterans preference and also Schedule A. So, and also military spouse. All non-competitive hiring authorities, they kind of go off to the side because now the hiring manager has an opportunity to view everyone on an equal playing field. And not every agency can use it. They have to get permission from OMB. There's like a 6-page letter that they write up in order to convince OMB to give them this authority so they can use it. And usually in the front end, it's not so intensive with HR. So it's more of a hiring manager to applicant type of dynamic. But later HR has to make sure that it's a legal hire. And a lot of times you can't just say the hiring manager likes somebody, let's hire them, if it's not a legal hire. But many situations you'll see like, hey, I know the hiring manager, it's a direct hire position, so just email me your resume and we'll see if you're a good fit. That does happen. But a lot of these positions are also posted on USAJobs. If you go to USAJobs, let's just go over there really quick. You can look, there's not an actual filter yet, there should be, but if you type in direct hire and you search it, you'll see there's over 2,000 jobs that it brings up. A lot of them have it in the title of the job announcement, but not always. So you want to go, if it doesn't say it in the title, all of these say it in the title. If it doesn't say it, then I would go into the actual job announcement and just search for direct hire, just to confirm it actually is direct hire. But this is a good opportunity for people who do not have those non-competitive hiring authorities, so they cannot use those other paths. So I would use that. Okay. Oh, you guys weren't able to see it. This is what I was showing earlier. This is direct hire, right? So you type in direct hire up here where the keyword box search is at. All right, good. Angie says I cannot hear him. This guy heard him. Did you hear him? When I play that short video, let me know really quick. Could you hear that or not? Okay. If remote work goes away, would you expect agencies to provide relocation assistance to move remote workers to city? So, PMART, we don't know, but anytime, the thing with the federal government is a lot of times when they make drastic changes, like, hey, we're going to reduce the amount of remote work, the way that they implement those changes is not by forcing people to come into the office or to firing them. Most of the time it's attrition based. So if we have 200,000 people that work 100% remote work. Those people, depending on what's going on in their life, medical emergencies, better career opportunities, they're always churning. People are always leaving. That is probably the ideal way to handle it. Anybody who's advising anybody, if they want to reduce the remote work population, you take 228,000 remote workers. Every day, let's say, or every year, let's say 10% fall off. So that's 20,000 you're losing every year. After 3 years, you've reduced it by 60,000. That's probably the most likely course of action in this type of situation. But I mean, we don't know. Are you going to get extra money to relocate? We don't know. Nobody knows that information. Mohammed, the only problem, I did accept 2 firm job offers. What do I do now? How is that a problem? Okay, the only way that is a problem is if both of those job offers had a security clearance requirement, so they're both required to do an investigation on you. What will happen then is one of those agencies will contact you and say, hey, Mohammed, you already have you're already being investigated for a security clearance, and then you're going to be put on the spot. And at that point, you're going to have to pick. You're going to have to say, oh, that's right. I actually want to, I got this job offer and I'm excited. I want to work over there. Or you could say, actually, I really want to work for your agency. I'm going to contact HR at DOD and I'm going to tell them to stop the investigation because I really want to work for the DOJ. Something like that. You're going to have to make a choice in that situation. Okay. This says, hi, I can't hear you. Okay. Dana says, I can hear him, but it was very low. No. Okay. Hey, let me know. I want to know if you can actually hear this. I'm going to turn the volume up and I'm going to play it again and tell me if you can hear it.
Secret in the federal bureaucracy. Here's the dirty little secret in the federal bureaucracy today. Most people don't even show up to work. So if you require most of those...
Can you hear that?
Just say, like normal working Americans, you come to work 5 days a week. A lot of them won't want to do that. And by the way, that creates a logic for many of those agencies being outside of DC in the first place.
Let me know in the chat if you can hear that.
Give examples. It's a great point you just brought. Here's the dirty little...
All right, so who heard it? Anybody hear it or no? It's low? Okay. All right, let's pull that out. Okay. All right. Hey, let's go back to the previously submitted questions. Make sure I don't completely forget those folks. And it looks like most people can hear it. So I think we're good. All right. Next question is from Great Escape, who asked, what strategies can I use to stay informed and prepare for policy or organizational changes that might affect my role under new leadership? The best thing here is keep the channel of communication open. A lot of times leadership is going to find out before everyone else finds out, before the staff finds out. So you want to make sure you're communicating and figuring out what's going to be happening. Every single person, I would say, needs to have a backup plan. And this is in all situations, not just because of a new administration. You need to have a backup plan. If your job went away tomorrow, what would you do? Where would you go? Who would you talk to? If that means, if the answer is no, I don't know anybody, I don't know what I would do, then you probably should consider expanding your network and getting to know more people in different industries and different areas, even within the federal government, but also different levels of government, let's say state, local, and then also private sector. Next question is from Jamudi, who asks, I'm a GS7, less than 52 weeks of federal service. I'm applying every day to other job postings, internal, open to the public, in Schedule A. As a current employee, is it possible to go up to a higher grade using my Schedule A? And when I apply, should I be removing my current position from my resume since time and grade could play a factor? Or is time and grade not a consideration when I select Schedule A in the questionnaire? So, open to the public and Schedule A have no bearing. It does not require any time and grade. So the answer is yes, you could go to a higher pay grade. But if you apply to a government job on USAJobs.gov with your current SF50 attached, and you tell them I'm a GS7 employee with less than 52 weeks in grade, you'll probably be marked as ineligible by a lot of HR specialists. So what you could do, two things. One, you can challenge it when it comes in. When they say you're not referred because you don't have 12 months of specialized experience, you can challenge it and say, I'm not using my government time, I'm using my private sector experience. Or two, and this is the one I would probably recommend, you could leave your SF50 off and mark that you're not a federal employee in the interest of eliminating confusion, because you're not applying as a government employee. You're applying with Schedule A using your non-government experience. So I would do it that way. Next question, Josh. Hey, Armand, I had a job interview for a WG5 job on Friday. They're hiring 15 people. How long should I wait until I hear back? You need to wait 3 weeks. 3 weeks after the interview, email the person who set up the interview and ask them for a status update. Keep that cadence. Keep doing it every 3 weeks until they give you an answer, until they say, yes, you're getting the job offer, or no. But HR can get overwhelmed really easy. So keep after it. All right, let's jump back into the comments here. All right, what is this? Chris, good morning, Chris. They even said that my file got reviewed by the higher ups and I'm good. I don't know how much longer I have to wait. It's already been well over 280 days. My God. So is that like a top secret SCI polygraph? Is that one of those type positions where they want to do the entire clearance before you start working? Anybody who's currently applying or waiting for a top secret position, I would inquire with HR if you're allowed to have an intern. There's a lot of people. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He was allowed to start immediately with an intern, meaning they do a quick initial background check, make sure that your criminal history is okay. And then while they're doing the comprehensive investigation, you can still start working. You can still start drawing those paychecks. So see if that's an issue. Not Nama, for some reason you can't hear me or you can't hear the video. Which one can't you hear? I'm assuming it's the video. Let's see. We can only hear the audio, but it's coming through your mic, not directly through the stream. Oh, I got you. Okay, so I would have to like configure that. So that's going to be for another day. All right, Mohammed. Hello, Armand. Which is better, working as IT specialist at the IRS, GS-12, without any promotion, or engineer HUD GS-12 with full promotion to GS-13? Which agency is more secure? Because I know Trump hates IRS. Yeah. You know, I think either one of those. I think this is the same question that you asked me the last live stream. And I think we identified IRS as probably being your best bet, depending on what you value the most when it comes to getting a government job. I would probably still stay IRS. I understand that, you know, there's a lot of rhetoric when it comes to the IRS. The IRS has grown by 10,000 workers under President Biden. So there's a lot of talk about making it smaller. But I don't think that will directly impact you. Once again, we do not know. But when it comes to your time, when it comes to your money, I think we identified that IRS was your best bet. Okay. I can't say your name, but the question is, I have a 45-minute soft skill interview with CISA on Monday. So that's tomorrow. The technical assessment and video interviews are done. Reddit suggests it's likely a formality. Unless I mess up, I'll receive a tentative job offer. Thoughts? Okay. So usually you'll have, in most agencies, what we typically see is the first interview could potentially be a panel interview. So you do the panel interview, and if you're able to pass that, the next level, if there is a next level, would be an interview with the hiring manager, who would be your direct supervisor. That can happen, or it might not happen. And then the third, usually it doesn't go past 3. The third one could potentially be a meet and greet with the executive. So if you're getting hired for, let's say a GS-14, GS-15 position, the executive a lot of times would like to meet you before they hire you. So that could also be a possibility. Now, I say all that. At the same time, what could be true is there's no interview. So for positions that are below GS-11, a lot of times they'll give you a job offer without even interviewing you. So all of that's possible. All right, let's see. No. Went to DC for the first time. It was beautiful. I think the best time to come to DC is probably in the spring, when you have the cherry blossoms blooming. You know, a lot of agencies even they tried to schedule some sort of wellness activity where you go out as a group and you're actually able to enjoy the cherry blossoms. A lot of people like that. Yep, not just, okay. We have WS. Do you recommend any paid resume writing services to build your resume specifically for USAJobs? No, I really don't. I think everyone has the ability to do it. Now, some people might not have the time, or they might not like it, but I think everyone has the ability to write resumes. And what often happens, it's such a variable when you're trying to get someone to write your resume. I've seen resumes from people who paid $400 or $500, and I'm looking at it, and it's a private sector resume. Because the company they hired, they said, oh, we specialize in government jobs or federal resumes, but they didn't. They really just wanted your business. They wanted your money. So they said they were specialized. And you end up getting like this generic, uncompelling, or I don't know how else to say that. It's a not interesting resume. Worst case scenario, it doesn't even allow you to be eligible. So if you're missing areas, for example, if you're missing the hours you worked per position on your resume, most HR specialists will mark you as ineligible. They won't even look at it. You won't get referred. Now, sometimes some of the HR specialists, they might refer you, but most of them will not, because you're missing hours per position. So they can't tell if it's full-time, 40 hours, or over 40 hours, or if it's part-time. And they can't assume that. They can't just look at it and say, oh, well, he was an operation manager at Target, so that must have been full-time. They're not supposed to do that. That's illegal. Or if you don't have the month and year per position, like March 2020 to March 2024, if you don't have it that way, it could be ineligible. Some people just put the year on their resume. It just says 2019, 2024. And a lot of times, that's not the way it's supposed to be. So you're creating more problems for yourself. And if you hire somebody to do a resume and they give you that, that's going to work against you. And then a lot of people that do resumes, they're just going to use ChatGPT, which you could do right now. You could do that sitting there on your couch. I would say nobody knows you the way that you know you. So you have the best vested interest in making sure that you succeed. Who wants you to have a job offer more than you? Maybe your spouse. maybe your mom. I don't know. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to be you. It's the person in the mirror. You're the person that wants it the most. You're the person that knows what you did. You can pull up your performance appraisals. There's this guy. He does resumes in Washington, D.C. He charges a little over $1,000. Now, I tell you, he does a good job. He does a good job. But what you will have to do in order for him to write your resume, you're going to have to email everything to him. Every one of your performance appraisals. So let's say you worked for 10 years, you have 10 performance appraisals. You'll have to email him all of that. And then he's going to ask you. You're going to be on the phone with him. He's going to be like, hey, what's the achievement that you did at this organization? What are you the most proud of? How would you measure that? You're going to spend so much time talking to this guy. At the end of this whole process, you're going to be like, I could have just wrote this thing myself. But he'll force you to go through the process. Over $1,000. Now, a lot of people will scoff at that and they'll be like, well, that's ridiculous. Who's going to pay over $1,000 for a resume? A lot of people do because he's still in business. And another question, another way to look at that is, let's say you're making $70,000 a year right now. How much would you pay to be making $125,000 next year? To be earning $50,000 more next year? How much is that worth? Is that worth $100? Is it worth $1,000? Is it worth $2,000? So that's another way to look at that. But I say all of that to say, I think you can do it yourself. Now, if you just need an example on how it looks like, or how is this resume, how is a job series communicated with the language of the job series for a federal government job, I have some federal resume examples in the link down below. If you look at the description of this video right now, you'll see a link there for example resumes. 0300, 0500, 2210, 1100. Those job series in which I wrote a resume in the format and the style that I believe is really competitive, and it should give you an advantage if you want to use that. But outside of that, I would say learn how to do it. Learn how to write your own resume, because you're going to need that skill over and over. As long as you plan on keep working, you want to keep working until a certain point. So you're going to have 2, 3, 4, 5 different jobs. You're not going to pay somebody every time that you're switching the job. Kind of a long-winded answer, but yeah. Okay, what else we got? Obscure departments like the White House Office of American Innovation. Okay, JK. RJ, Armand, I have a tentative job offer that requires a secret clearance. I'm going through the process right now. Should I still apply to other jobs that require a clearance, since only one investigation can happen at a time? RJ, I would say no, unless you're trying to get a higher level position. So this is a scenario. You have a tentative job offer, but let's say it's for a GS-13, and you're doing the work in order to make sure that job gets cleared. You can apply, I would say apply to GS-14s, even if they have a clearance, because if you get one of those, you can tell the 13 that, hey, I'm not interested anymore. And then you can pivot to the 14. But if they're equal, like if you already have a GS-13 and there's no benefit to getting another 13, meaning there's no other agency you would rather work in, like maybe it's a dream to work in NASA. Some people really love NASA. So if you have a DOD job offer for a GS-13, but you really want to work at NASA, you can apply for GS-13s at NASA with a security clearance requirement. Just understand you're going to have to give one of them up. So I would go into it with that. Outside of that, you can always look at applying to the positions that do not have security clearance requirements. Okay. Let's see. What is this? We got Staten. If you are approved for remote and box 37 on your SF50 changes to 7777 where you are not part of a bargain unit but actually are. I think I'm missing some context on your question. Okay. Myra, hi Armand. I challenged a GS9 ineligibility response I received. I got an almost immediate reply saying that my inquiry was closed. Is this computer generated? If it was immediate, then yeah, I would probably assume that that might have been an automated thing. It might have been generated. But it depends. I'm guessing that you went to the job announcement and you scrolled all the way at the bottom where there's a point of contact and you try to contact that individual. Sometimes that doesn't lead you anywhere, so it can be kind of frustrating. But if you were marked ineligible for a reason that you know was unlawful or inaccurate or it wasn't supposed to happen, I would still try to pursue that. Even, I would still try to pursue it. So there's other ways that you can stay persistent and try to get closure on your situation. Dana Cooper, I paid over $200 for resume writing and realized I used ChatGPT. Never again. Yep, that's the reality. Philip LOL Master, are we USPS workers considered government? And what other government jobs I can transfer into being a mail carrier? Since a dead-end job, been doing it for 5 years, what would you recommend? Okay, Philip. When they calculate the federal employees, I believe most calculations leave off USPS. So right now, the federal government, I believe, is 2.3 million workers. And if you include the Postal Service, it's a lot more than that. But if you want to transition into the federal government as a Postal Service worker, this is what I would say. Let's do this. You can type in USPS. There are some jobs now. OIG on USPS, those are on USAJobs.gov. But there are other jobs where you're going to have an interagency agreement. So you're looking for jobs on USAJobs.gov that have interagency agreements with the USPS. That's not one of them. So you can either search USPS, but maybe what would be better is to search interagency agreements and see. So right now, only 300 are popping up, but there's more than that actually use interagency agreements. So you're going to have to go through here. It's going to come down to really using your filters. The filters are going to save you a lot of time. A lot of times on the job announcement, it'll list all the interagency agreements if the position is using that. They don't have to use that all the time, but a lot of them do use it, and you can find it in the job announcement. That's going to take me some time, so we're not going to do that. But that's what I would recommend for you, is to use the filters, look for interagency agreements on USAJobs.gov, look for something in the administrative series, look at something at the 0300 series, and you should be able to find something where you can apply even though you are in the USPS, meaning you are in the accepted service right now. Okay. Next question. What if someone's been out of the workforce too long? From Atlas, the world on my shoulders. So yeah, here's the deal. If you've been out of work too long, that's kind of subjective, right? What does that mean, too long? In the federal hiring process, having a gap, a work gap, is not supposed to have a negative connotation. Excuse me. So there are a lot of people that worry that I've been out of work for 2 or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. A work gap is not supposed to work against you in the federal government. But what I suggest most people is to look at what experience have you gained since you've been out of the workforce. Have you tried to start your own business? Because that's actual experience. Have you volunteered at a school, church, at the government, at a local government, maybe your city, your town? Because that's actual experience. Have you been on an educational program where you're trying to pursue a certificate, and in combination with that, you've done an apprenticeship or you've helped out, some organization using those skills? That's actual experience. Were you a healthcare provider for your loved one and you had to coordinate medical appointments, you had to manage budgets because this individual was incapacitated in some manner? That would be actual experience. So don't just say, I don't have any experience. I haven't been in the workforce for so long. Look at what experience you potentially have gained during that time. And also know, like I said in the beginning, just because you have a work break, it's not going to work against you. So don't let that be the reason why you're not applying. Okay, Daniel, good morning. GS 14 1102 supervisory role here, about 6 months into probation. What steps can I take now to angle myself into a 15 associate chief role? So the good thing is you're a GS 14 and you're in a supervisory role. That's great, because to get to a GS 15 chief, they're going to want you to have that supervisory experience. So you already have that box checked. Now, the soonest that you're going to be able to apply with this, if you're using your current federal government experience, is in 6 months. So if you're 6 months into probation, I'm assuming that you're 6 months into the job. So you need to have 12 months as a GS 14 in order to compete for GS 15s. What's probably going to be very substantial is, what are you doing in this role now to set yourself up to be considered for GS 15? Are you taking on, new projects? Are you able to quantify the achievements that you have already made in that current position? What have you done before the GS 14? Did you have a lot of experience? I would probably look more towards leadership. What were you able to influence as a leader, accomplish with a team? You want to draw the focus to that mainly. You can also take some of the plethora of leadership classes that the government offers. Different agencies have access to different online educational opportunities, but if it's like a government sanctioned leadership course, it could be a small one too. It could be something that only takes 2 or 3 days. I would probably take a couple of those leadership courses and put them on your resume so that you have it on there. That's going to probably increase your chances. But the jump from GS 14 to GS 15, I would say, is a little bit, it's more difficult than 13. I'm speaking from the DC area, okay? I'm not speaking from Iowa or South Dakota. I'm talking about Washington, DC area. The jump from 13 to 14 is easier than the jump from 14 to 15, but you can still totally get it. It's not going to, most people, if they set themselves to it in the DC area, most people can hit GS 15. The real issue comes in when you're trying to be an SES. If you're trying to be an SES, that's where like the real barrier, I think, would be for a lot of people. But that's a whole nother hiring process. If you're trying to be an executive, it's a whole different hiring process. It's not like what we're talking about here. Okay. I still have a banner up. Hold on, let me get rid of that. Do I still have the banner up? Why is that up? Trish, where's Trish? Okay, let me get rid of that. Okay, what do we have here? Jasmine, why is it so hard to get an entry-level IT job or InfoSec job? That's kind of relative. What do you mean that it's hard? Is it hard for you? I would say it's hard for you. The first reason I would say, okay, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you have a great resume. The first reason it's hard for you is probably because of the location, wherever you're located. But if you're telling me you're willing to go anywhere, and some people are, they're like, hey, I'm willing to travel anywhere. If the location isn't holding you back, the reason why it's so hard is because of what's in your resume. And that could be one or two things, right? One, you don't have enough experience. You just don't. Some people, they contact me. I review their resumes and I'm like, you got 5 months of experience. We can't really do too much with that. Let's look at some GS6s because you can't do too much with that. But if you have the experience and it's hard for you to get entry-level IT, the reason is because of the way your resume is written in a way that's not doing you any favors. It doesn't really show your accomplishments. It's not really given the necessary context. So HR cannot legally adjudicate and select you to refer you because you're not. What is reality? Let's say you have a ton of IT experience. You've been solving miracles on computers for the last decade. You're amazing. You have, all these programming languages. You know everything about networks and AI and all of it, right? It doesn't matter what reality is, unfortunately. What it matters is, what do you have? What do you have on paper? Are you doing your experience any justice by the way you're structuring it on the resume? Because if you're not, then reality doesn't matter at that point. So I would focus there. So it's location, resume, or experience. That's what I would tell you. That's why it's hard, because for a lot of people, it's not that hard, right? People are accepting job offers every day. So if you have the proper framework, if you have the proper knowledge, then it's not that difficult. And now it takes a while. So that's another thing. Is it hard or does it take a long time? For some people, they mix the two up. They're like, well, it's hard because it takes it takes 4 or 5 months to get in. And yeah, that's a good point. All right. Let's see. Jasmine says, I have obtained certificates. I've also completed graduate course, but I do not have hands of experience. I believe you mean to say years of experience. Okay, yeah. Experience is going to matter. But if you don't have the experience and you've just completed a certificate program or a graduate level program or a college, if you completed a degree, you have the 24 months that you can use as a recent student graduate. You can use that to try to get some of these positions with limited experience. But I would still include all of your internship experience, any type of minimum wage experience you might have had. That needs to go on your resume too. Okay, let's see. All right, let's go back to the previously submitted jobs. What am I talking about? Questions. Next question. Sarcastic guides who ask, I keep getting qualified, not referred, or qualified, but the law requires that we give preference to vets. I don't know how to turn this around. I just got my Schedule A and I will upload it, but does it give me the same preference as veterans? Schedule A doesn't give you the same preference. Okay, so with veterans, the deal with veterans, there's 3 things that work in their favor. So the first thing is VRA. So that's a non-competitive hiring authority. That works in their favor. Then you have the 30% disabled. That's a non-competitive hiring authority. That works in their behalf. Then you have the additional points that they can gain on their application. So there's like +0, +5, +10. That works in their behalf. So there's a lot of things that work in the behalf of the veteran. But still, amazingly, we have a pretty big community of veterans that still struggle to get government jobs. And that's a whole other issue with those guys. But Schedule A, what that gives you is a non-competitive hiring authority. It's not the same as veterans preference or anything like that, but it is a non-competitive hiring authority. And you can use Schedule A to get jobs that are not posted on USAJobs.gov. Right now, everyone in this room, we're thinking about what jobs are posting up on USAJobs.gov. What's going to hit Monday? Are there going to be any opportunities that line up with my skills on Monday, tomorrow? But with Schedule A, you can work with a coordinator that could potentially have a relationship with a hiring manager that can put you into an interview or even put you into a position that's not announced. And it doesn't have to be announced because these jobs are going to be in the accepted service. Schedule A requires you to be in the accepted service for 2 years. So that's why that's why Schedule A works to your benefit. So great, you're getting a Schedule A letter. That's going to help you out tremendously, in my opinion. The second thing, you need to focus on the direct hire jobs. If you keep getting emails saying the law requires we give preference to vets, direct hire job announcements, they don't have that same restriction. You can get those jobs without veteran preference being recognized. So focus on that area too. Next question. No ordinary TV. Why is the probation so long? 1 year. Why? It's long because if you're not a good fit, you're an at-will employee and they can get rid of you really quick. I mean, that's the honest answer. It's a probation period to make sure you're a good fit with that organization. But it's not always 1 year. It could be 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. And that's the most typical. I would say probably 65% is 1 year. 2 years usually for like supervisory positions. 3 year is like cyber accepted service. Some weird, unique circumstance like that, which I don't agree with that. But it is what it is. So that's why the probationary period exists. Now, the probationary period makes a lot of people anxious. It makes a lot of people nervous. I've talked to people who were fired, who were terminated because of something that they did during the probationary period. And it's unfortunate, but I would still say, even though I've talked to, close to a dozen people who have been terminated, I would say that 90 to 95% of everybody, they're able to get through the probationary period. They're able to become permanent government employees. And even after you're done with probation, the first benchmark that you have, in my opinion, is 3 years if you're in the competitive service, because you want to become a career tenured employee. in case you decide to leave the government, you can still get reinstated a little bit easier, a lot easier actually. So the first milestone is 3 years. And taking it a step back, there's actually an 18-month milestone. 18 months is when you're eligible. If something were to happen to you that caused disability, you would be entitled to disability benefits at the 18-month mark. So 18 months, 3 years, after that is 5 years. And then you can just keep going from there. Those are the main milestones. All right. Okay. One more. What do we got here? Oh, God's favor. Another question. What do you suggest when answering an application question that you do not have extensive experience in? Should I choose have been trained but not use skills on my job? I know an answer lowers my score, but I want to be as honest as possible. One thing I would say when speaking about questionnaires is, let's say 100 people applied for that job. Most of those people are going to be marking down that they're an expert. Your competition will be marking down that they're an expert. Even if they have less experience than you, they will still be marked because that's what they were told. They're going to do what they're told. They're trying to, everyone's trying to get a better job. Everyone's trying to get a little bit more money, a better situation, a better position, and they're trying to improve their life. So everybody wants it. All 100 people that applied to the job announcement you applied to, they all want it. But they're marking they're an expert. And then here you are, and you're marking that you're not an expert. So what do you think that does? In certain situations, it results you in disqualifying yourself. Now, I'm not saying be dishonest, but what I would say is this. If you do not feel comfortable at all marking down that you're an expert, then don't do it. But also, maybe you shouldn't apply to that job announcement. Maybe there's another job announcement that fits you a little bit better where you can confidently mark down you're an expert without compromising your morals. But it will have you, if you mark that you're not an expert, if you mark that like I have some experience, but not that much, it will impact your application score. That's what I would say. Another one. No, let's do chats first. Let's do chats. I think I missed a few chats. What do we got here? All right. We have Glam Gal, formerly a procurement agent, procurement analyst, now financial system analyst at Boeing in the military sector. What kind of role, government organization do you recommend? Glam Gal, I wouldn't recommend a specific agency. I think it's more important for you to focus on a job series. And there's two that I would probably focus on. This one, go to USAJobs, click search, scroll down to series. I would focus on 0501. So anything in the 0500 is going to be finance and accounting and budget, right? 0501 doesn't typically have an educational requirement, where something like 0510 would definitely, you would need a CPA for 0510. But 0501, you don't really need it. 0503, you don't really need it. So if you have experience in finance, you can look here. Also, since you were an analyst in different capacities, 0343 is where you want to be at. This is a program and management analysis. So you're going to find a lot of analyst jobs here. Some of these jobs that deal with finance in the 0343 job series, they're also in the 0560, which is so you can look at that also. You might find some other areas in the 0500 that could fit your exact experience. I wouldn't know unless I had your resume in front of me and I was looking over it with you, but I would start there. 0501, 0503, then 0343, and then 0560. That's where I would start. Do not select anything from the agency filter. So over here you have a department and agency filter. Unless you're like super strict about, I can only work for the Department of Commerce, nothing else will do. In that case, select it. But if it's not a big deal for you, leave all the agencies open, because there's great opportunities in a lot of different agencies. Like some people never imagined that they could work for the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission. And if you're only looking for DOD or the VA, those are the only two agencies you want to work in, you're going to miss out on maybe some SEC opportunities. Getting a job at the SEC from a financial perspective is amazing. The salary goes over $200,000 a year, so they make more than GS-15s in a lot of situations. They also have not SP, which is a thrift savings plan, but they also have a 401k. So there's like 2 retirement. Man, you got the pension, you get the 401k, you get the TSP, you got Social Security. So it ends up being a great deal. That's not just the SEC, that's also the FDIC. That's also the NCUA. So there's a lot of different organizations that you're not familiar with. And if you select certain agencies, you're not going to even find out about it. So don't do that. That's what I would say. Next one. We have the interpreter. Interpreter, hi, still waiting for a step negotiation after 6 weeks. Final job offer. HR said I'll be hired soon, but it's the holiday. Very nervous if I can make it before January 20th. Oh, you're talking about, okay. I thought you were, see, when I first read this, I'm thinking you're worried because of the CR. Because we have, before January 20th, there's another point of anxiety, and that's the week of the Friday before Christmas. That's when the continuing resolution ends. So if they don't have a new CR, then we don't have money. There's no budget. So that's what I would be worried about first. And also, yeah, January 20th, obviously, that could be an issue. VHA, okay, VHA, GS11, how to push HR, will there be a freeze? There could be a freeze the Friday before Christmas, or there could be a freeze immediately after January 20th. If you look at 2017, when President Trump had his first term, he implemented a hiring freeze, and I think it was 90 days or close to 90 days, where there was a complete full-blown hiring freeze. So what I would do for you, what I would say is, how bad do you want this job, number one? And then, are you willing to give up a little money in order to get in quicker? Because if that's the case, you could close the negotiation out and just say, hey, I'm ready to accept the final job offer. I'm okay with step 1. Let's make it happen. And that's another strategy that you might want to take if you believe the CR is not going to get renewed. No one's going to tell you if the CR is getting renewed. I think there's a high chance. I would put it at like 75% chance. I think the CR will get renewed. But then you have January 20th coming at you. So yeah, I would be nervous too. I think in your situation, if you didn't like need the money that much, I would say just accept step 1 in this situation, because you have 2 things coming up that could present some difficulties for you. Okay. Next, 909, Jose Angel. Is it recommended to email the hiring manager on the job posting and ask for my status for the job application? So the point of contact all the way at the bottom of the job announcement, that's not the hiring manager. That's the HR person that's responsible for the job announcement. And should you email them? No. There should be no emails happening until you get the interview. That's the sign that you made it, right? So 100 people that apply. Out of that 100 people, let's say 30 of them get referred. Out of those 30, the hiring manager is going to pick to interview, let's say 6 to 8. So you're going to have 22 people that are going to be left in limbo, and they're going to be upset, rightfully so, because no one's getting back to them in a timely manner. But the other people are going to get interviewed. Once you've made the cut, so to speak, and you're part of the interview club, then after the interview, that's when I recommend to start communicating. But before then, the chances are you're either going to get a canned response, like a real generic response, or they're just going to ignore you. You're not going to get anything back, I would say. Next question. Bama Jeb. After getting hired, when or how do you get your SF50? So I think your SF50 will probably come, you get hired, and then probably, I would say 3 to 4 weeks later, you should be able to access your SF50. Depending on what agency you're in, it's controlled by a different website. When you're being onboarded into that agency, I would ask, how do I access my SF50? Because I was in different federal agencies, and depending on the federal agency I was in, I had a different website. But at some point, let's say within 3 to 4 weeks after you start, you will be given a website where if you click it, you'll be able to upload or download your most current SF50. Every time there's a personnel action, they're going to give you a new SF50. So let's say you get a performance. Most federal employees at the end of the year, they're entitled to a performance award if you perform decently. So let's say you get a couple $1,000s at the end of the fiscal year for a performance bonus, you'll get another SF50. If you make it from step 1 to step 2, you get another SF50. So you're going to be getting a lot of them. If you've left the government and you didn't have an SF50, you need to contact the federal agency. Contact them. If you don't know who to call, I would call the help desk and try to get guidance that way. And they should be able to find your SF50 and they should be able to give you your SF50. Oh, we got a super chat. Alex, $20. Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate it. I had a person still on active duty military interview at my agency and was a Schedule A applicant. Is this possible? Wouldn't that qualify them for a Mill Disability Board? I think the applicant went to a civilian doctor for Schedule A. Hey, that's a great question. It is possible, because I'm going to just lay out my thoughts on this scenario, because I talk to military people that are getting out all the time. Now, Schedule A is not just between you and your medical provider. It could be you and your rehabilitative counselor. So there's two different entities you can get a Schedule A letter from. One is from like a traditional clinic or a hospital from a nurse, doctor, or physician assistant. That's one way. The other way is to go to a rehabilitative department. So Virginia, I believe, has like 20 or 23 different buildings for rehabilitative counseling. And those counselors, they can sign off on a Schedule A letter as well. They're actually much more likely to sign it than a medical professional, because medical professionals, they don't even know what it is. They're like, what do you want me to sign? And some of them won't sign it. So you go to the rehabilitative department in your state and they can sign it. You do not. So in the military, to get disability, you need to have, you need to be out of the military, and then the VA goes through a process. They award you a disability, you get your letter, but that's after you get your DD-214 already. For Schedule A, it's not like that. As long as there's medical documentation that you have a severe ailment that's on the list, look at SF. If you don't know what qualifies you, I don't know if I should share it. I'm going to go ahead and share it because someone here doesn't know. So I'm going to go ahead and share it. Okay, so you go to SF-256. Just Google it like I'm Googling it here. You see this right here? These are all examples of what people mark when they have a Schedule A letter. Now, once you get hired, they're going to give you this, and you're going to have to mark which one applies to you. But you don't have to, because there's a section here that says, I do not wish to identify my disability. So you don't have to identify what your disability is, but this serves as a reference on what could potentially be a disability for a Schedule A letter. So you'll see things on here like ADHD, depression, anxiety disorder, morbid obesity, dwarfism, blind or cannot see, alcoholism, illegal drug addiction. So there's a lot of stuff on there, right? A medical, doesn't have to be military, a civilian medical doctor or a rehabilitative counselor can look at your records and say, okay, yes, you have this, I'll sign your letter. So that's how they can have the letter signed. And they can interview, even while they're in active duty military. Maybe they're about to start their terminal leave. People go on interviews before their terminal leave starts. So that, that can happen. And people have accepted job offers, before terminal leave, during terminal leave. That's all possible as well. All right. Hey, thanks again for the super chat. Appreciate it. Let's see. What else did I miss? I missed a bunch of stuff. Okay. What is this? Jasmine, if you pass the 1 year, let me get this down. Hold on. Let me take, we're back. If you pass the 1 year probationary period, but have not crossed the 3 year mark in this case, can you be easily terminated? Once you pass your probationary period, you have civil service protections. With it comes union, if you're not a supervisor, union representation, union support. So the 3 years doesn't matter unless your probation is 3 years. Like in DOD for the service, the cyber acceptance service, they have a 3 year probation. But the main thing is getting off of probation. Now you have civil service protections. You're welcome, Glam Gal. Thank you for your question. Okay, we have you once shared a website that shows how each agency is rated, kind of like Glassdoor. Can you reshare that website? Yeah, I'm going to reshare it with you. I'm going to show you how to actually get there so you can do it on your own. So let's see. Okay. show you that. You're going to type in best places to work job rankings, and you're going to click it. And you're going to go here. So the actual website is called bestplacestowork.org. So you're going to scroll down. It's categorized by large, mid-size, small agencies, agency subcomponents. So if you want to see the absolute worst agency in the federal government, according to these rankings, it's going to be the Bureau of Federal Prisons. It has been holding that spot tightly for years. Right here, you see it? Federal Bureau of Prisons, Department of Justice, 38. So it was, I think it improved. It was 30. No, actually, it didn't improve. It went lower. So it was 38 last year. It's 35 this year. And then if you click on it, it'll tell you why. It'll say, okay, leadership, not really good, not really effective, 49.6. Then how's their pay? You can go to their pay. Their pay is atrocious. 33. Recognition is even worse than pay. So overall, just not a pleasant place to be. This is based on what people mark down on a survey. So you have federal employees that work in this agency, and it appears they're disgruntled. So there could be some merit to that. That's not the only place you can look, though. You can go to FedScope. You go to FedScope. I did a video. I don't even know if it's out yet. I did a video on turnover. No, it's not out. Maybe I'll release it tomorrow. There's a video on turnover, like what agencies have the absolute most turnover. And I use FedScope in order to identify how many people are leaving their job or quitting their job or getting terminated or getting a RIF. So I think the number one agency that was getting a RIF was, I think it was the IRS. I think the IRS had lost 130 people due to a RIF over the last few years. So yeah, use those two websites. All right. We got P Baga. Hi, Armand. Thanks for conducting these live sessions. You're very welcome. Thank you for showing up. What kind of jobs, GS level, can a high school graduate diploma holder with 10 years of customer service experience apply for? So P Baga, it feels weird saying that name, but okay, I'm just going to call you Baga. Baga, this is the deal. Detach yourself from high school diploma. That's not what identifies you. That doesn't even matter in this situation. What you lead with, what you will always lead with, is you have a decade of experience. That's what you're about. You're about a decade plus of experience. So the question should be, what type of GS level can I apply with 10-year plus experience in customer service? And the answer is 0301, 0303. So where is it? Let's go back here. Let's get rid of all of this. Let's look at 0301. So most customer service, and it's not always the same. One thing you can do just for like an experiment is just type in customer service. Let's say representative. Let's make it a little bit. Yeah, let's do representative. Okay, 94. So let's go to series. You're going to find most of these probably will be in 0301. Okay, you see that? So 0301, 0303, we have 18 plus 6. What is that, 24? You have 24 jobs, 0303. And a lot of these should involve, well, this is administrative specialist. Let's just do customer service. Okay. So you see this is in Hawaii. I would never take a job in Hawaii making $24 an hour. That's a recipe for disaster. That's not enough unless you're living with somebody. But you have customer service here. Mission support specialist, you probably could do something like that, you know, especially if you had like, you know, at least a term or so in the military. Program support assistant, I would look into something like that. Program support assistant, you can do that with customer service experience because customer service involves administration. So you can look at it. You know what? For you, I wouldn't even put customer service up here. I would just look 0303, 0301. Let's do hiring path. We'll do open to the public because I don't know anything about you. So we'll do open to the public. So this just means you're a U.S. citizen. And look through these right here. Let's do it by close date. Look through these. You got over 300 jobs. You need to make sure your resume is speaking to the 0300 series. Make sure you have all your admin achievements listed on your resume the right way. And then you can just start applying. If location doesn't matter to you, you can just start applying here. This will keep you busy for the rest of the year if you wanted to apply to every one of these jobs. Or you can put your zip code in right here under location. So put a zip code in. If you were where I'm at, there would be 95 jobs here. That's how you would do that. Okay. All right. Hopefully that answers your question. Frenchie's mom. I just got referred out of 1,200 applicants. Is this a good sign? Yeah, the agency, they dictate how they want the referrals to work. So it could be, I just want 30 people to be referred, or I want 20%. In this case, let's say I only want the top 10%. So that means you and 120 other people, or you and 119 people were referred. Yeah, being referred is always a good sign, but are you going to get the interview? That's the question. Most people can get over the hurdle. So as a person trying to get a federal government job, you have two hurdles. The first hurdle in front of you is going to be HR, human resources. You want them to refer you. Most people can figure out how to get them to refer their application because it comes down to keywords, it comes down to your experience, it comes down to your resume, right? So as long as you're highly qualified based on the job announcement, you can jump over that hurdle, there's no problem. But the second one is harder. The second one is, how do you convince a hiring manager to actually give you an interview? Because most people do not get interviewed. If you look at 30, 40, 50 people getting referred, only 8 get the interview. So how can you be in that small percentage after you get the referral? And that comes down to what is going to make the hiring manager interested in you is by having interesting achievements that are directly relevant to the position that you're applying to. That's what it comes down to. And it's harder to do that. Okay. But yeah, that's a good sign. All right. Philip Lowellmaster. Hey, Philip. Since USPS is in the accepted service, yes. Is it better to get into the competitive service? Yes. Would they match my benefits? I have experience in MRP planning, material receiving quality assurance before USPS. Yes, I would say you would try to get into the competitive service. I think everyone at some point in time should try to do at least 3 years in the competitive service. That way you have way more positions that you can move around to. There's more promotion opportunities simply because those positions exist. Now there's people that they work in the FBI, CIA, ATF. They do 20, 30-year careers and they're fine. All of those jobs in the FBI, CIA, all of that, that's accepted service. So they never have to jump into the competitive service because that's not something that they want. But if you are trying to configure your situation for the most opportunities, then I would say try to get into the competitive service for at least 3 years. Nia Jones, how does the GS system work? Do you need an advanced degree for higher grades? No. You do not need an advanced degree for higher grades, but an advanced degree can work in your favor in certain situations. First, I want to say this. Listen, you have about 80% of jobs that have no educational requirement. The jobs that have educational requirements are nurse, doctor, accountant, computer science for the 1500 series, engineer, social worker. Those are the positions that require education. But most of these jobs are not those positions. Even with finance. So you want to be an accountant? They want you to have a CPA. You want to be a revenue agent? They want you to have a bachelor's degree in finance or something like that. But there are other jobs like budget analysts, like financial specialists that don't require any college. You could be a program analyst. You could be a management analyst. You could be a deputy director. You can work in graphic design, and you don't need a degree. So between degree and GS grade, there's some confusion with that. And partly it's because of USAJobs.gov. You'll see some positions that say, in order to qualify using education only for a GS-11, you need a PhD. Does that mean you need a PhD to get a GS-11? No, absolutely not. That means if you have zero experience, you can be considered with a PhD. Most people, they qualify for government jobs based on their experience. We have GS-15s with no degrees all over the place, just running wild all over DC. They have they're the top of their division, or not division, their office, right? So they're directors, they're deputy directors, They're chief of staff and they don't have a degree. It's not a requirement to have the degree. What's the requirement is, do you have the experience? Now, the college degrees, the educational degrees, they qualify you for jobs with no experience up to GS11. So GS12 and higher, then the degree is not going to help you unless the hiring manager has a bias in his head, right? So if I'm the hiring manager and I'm like, well, I got an MBA, and the MBA was really good, I think everyone should have an MBA, and I'm hiring for an 1100 position, maybe I have a bias that an MBA would put you ahead. There's even agencies that on their interview sheet, on their score sheet, if the person has a degree, maybe you put plus 2 points. But that's a local policy. That's an internal policy. There are so many people that are able to climb and achieve high GS grades with no college education. So I wouldn't let that deter you, and I would not fall into the mindset of, I need this degree to get this promotion, because it's going to lead to disappointment. If you work hard and you get your master's degree, and then you see your coworker getting promoted ahead of you that doesn't even have an associate, doesn't even have a handful of credits, what's that going to do to you? It's going to make you feel a certain type of way, right? You're not going to like it. So there's too much emphasis on degrees when it comes to GS grades. Okay. Let's see. All right. All right. Thank you for all that you do. Victor, you're welcome. I missed a whole bunch. What is this? P teach. Is it negative to try to seek employment with the federal service over the age of 50? No, it is not negative. The average age of a federal employee is higher than that in the private sector. I believe the average age of a federal employee, if I'm not mistaken, is 47. So you're 50, so you're only 3 years past that. I think you would have less age discrimination if you got into the federal government. And government, period. It's just not federal. Also, county, state, city, the government, people are more at an advanced age in those type of in the industry, in public sector in general. Real Kicks, does 1 year, 52-week term position get benefits? Can they be offered full-time during their term? So if you're in a term position, meaning that your position is set to expire after 4 years or something like that, if you're working full-time, you probably will get benefits. If it's a 40-hour-a-week type position, will you be offered full-time during term? Okay, so are you full-time term, or are you intermittent, or are you part-time term? Because term is meaning temporary. But how are you working on that temporary? Intermittent, then probably not. You're probably not going to get any benefits. If you're in a term position, they typically will not just give you a full-time position. You would have to apply for it. So 4 years temporary position can be extended, and it usually is, as long as you're performing decently. It can be extended, I believe, up to 2 years. But then after that, you have to find a full-time position. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. What else? All right, let's see. Armand, thanks for all you do. Is there a credit score requirement for a secret level clearance? Misty. So there's not like a hard credit score requirement. The thing with a lot of government jobs, they'll have you do a credit check. They'll do a credit check on you. You'll sign a form saying, I give you my permission to run my credit. And what they're looking for is really outstanding debt that hasn't been paid off, that's delinquent. So if you're still making payments, that's great. If you have back taxes, that's a problem. But if you're making payments consistently, that's great. That's the main thing. You want to be honest when questioned. You also want to get onto a payment plan if you have outstanding debt. And you want to have some sort of supporting documentation to point to. Like, yeah, I owe $10,000. I've been making $400 a month payments. I've been doing it for 18 months. That consistency, that history of a payment plan, that's going to work in your favor. When it comes to secret clearances, top secret clearances, the main question is, can this person be bribed? Can they bribe Misty to reveal national secrets? Because you, in theory, would have access to material that could put the U.S. in danger. It could threaten the U.S. if it was revealed. So let's say you're working in an office in the Department of Army, and there's a document there that like has the diagram of some of our armored vehicles. And you take that and you send it over to some people over at Russia or China, in order to, get some money. Maybe they pay you a few $1,000s or whatever. That stuff has happened. People have been caught and busted by sending information to people in China. And it's like an undercover agent that's trying to detect espionage. And they're wanting to know, can you be bribed? Because your financial situation is in such a poor state. Could an international person offer you money to reveal secrets? And you want the answer to be no. You can't be bribed, right? Okay. Let's see. What else do we have? JK, 10 plus year federal employee here, another 10 plus year in the military. Great thing about people who have military time is they're able to buy back that time. And it also counts towards their leave accrual rate. So if you're somebody who's done like 5 years and then you just went into the private sector for the next 20 years, that 5 years could be added towards your federal pension if you buy back that time. Also, you're going to be earning leave at 6 hours per pay period instead of doing 4 hours per pay period. So there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of appeal for a veteran that has maybe a handful of years in the military to join the federal government. All right, let's see if we got any other previously submitted questions. What do we have? Let me get through these real quick. So Casey asked, is a GS5 Step 1 in San Diego financially adequate for a single military veteran? I know the answer is no, but we'd like to hear your thoughts. Well, you got it, Casey. The answer is no. Probably not, right? If you're a veteran, there's a couple other things that come into mind. So are you getting disability right now? Do you have a pension right now? Because that changes everything. If not, how much do you need to live in San Diego? I think you need at least $50,000 a year at a minimum. So if you look at the pay chart, if you go to the pay chart of San Diego, let's look at the GS pay scale. I think you're going to need to be at least probably GS6. Let's look at it. This is San Diego right now. So you need to at least make $50,000. As long as you don't have a lot of debt, you might be able to swing it. And this is like studio apartment. Maybe you're living with a roommate. So a GS5 starts off at $45,000 a year. And it's not like a regular job because you're going to have a 4.4% deduction coming out for your FERS, which is your pension. That amount will be coming out of your paycheck, 4.4%. So in reality, you're probably going to be bringing home something closer to $40,000. And then you also got to consider some sort of taxes, right? So no, unless you're GS5, you would need to be a step 8 at a minimum. But I wouldn't even consider it really. I would look at GS6, GS7. And even then, you're going to be living pretty tight. It's going to be tight. Maybe GS7 step 5, if you could get that, it might be a little bit better, but it's going to be rough. San Diego is just expensive. So you're right. You're right in your assumption that the answer was no. Okay. Valerie, next question is from Valerie. My age is 61. I just started my government job. Haven't been there a year and my pay sucks. Earn more money in the private sector. Is it worth staying? I mean, Valerie, that's up to you to determine, is it worth staying? You're 61, right? You just started. If you want a pension, then you do 5 years. That puts you at 66. So at 66, you can get your 5-year pension, which depending on where you're at, if you're in a high cost area, that could be $500, $600, $650 a month. Add that to your Social Security, and then you can retire and do whatever you want. That's one course of action. If it sucks like a lot, like if you're taking like a 70% pay cut just by doing a government job, maybe get back into the private sector. But a lot of government jobs, one of the advantages they have is the work-life balance. How much is your time worth to you? For most people, the older that you get, the more time has a value. When you're in your 20s and you're just running around doing whatever, your time doesn't really have a premium to it because who cares? You're young. You think you're going to live forever. When you're 50, 60 years old, you realize like you're thinking like, how much time do I have? So your time becomes increasingly more valuable. Does the government job offer you way more time where you can do other things? If so, that could be worth it in itself. But outside of that question, try to at least get your pension. But it's completely up to you based on your own unique circumstances and what's happening where you're at. But sorry to hear that. Next question is from Mr. Din Wayne. I've been trying for years to get a government job with the FAA. I was so close to getting a position with the FAA, but they changed the position from remote to hybrid, and I wasn't willing to move out of the state. Do you offer sessions regarding applying for positions on USAJobs.gov? Yeah, Mr. Din Wayne, I do. Any and everybody can go to the description below. There's a link where you can schedule a phone call with me. I'll look over your resume. I'll give you some suggestions and feedback. We can talk about your unique circumstance. We can look on USAJobs.gov together, so you can book a call in the description below. Also, once again, I do have the federal resume templates that you can look at down below to help strengthen your own resume. If you want me to edit your resume, then I can do that as well. There's a course option down there, which includes me editing your resume after you're done with it. So the course is really informing and instructing you on exactly how you should do it. And then once it's completed, you send it to me. And I spend a couple of hours refining it to the best of my ability based on what job series you're targeting, based on the job announcement and things like that. Now, for that course, I decided to do a 20% sale for like Thanksgiving, Black Friday. So if you input the code SAVE20, then you should be able to get 20% off of that. The link is with all the other links down in the description below. So yeah, any one of those options could potentially help you out. What else do we have? Let me answer some of these questions that we have in here. What is this? Mohammed. Thank you, Armand. I appreciate all your help and efforts. Yes, I did ask this question last time. However, this time HUD changed the offer from an 11 to 12. How do they change them the offer? They shouldn't be able to change the offer. Once the offer is extended, the GS grade should be set. That's a red flag. IRS, but HUD has promotion potential to 13 and there's no promotion potential. Okay, so in that case, the IRS is only going up to 12. So from a financial perspective, it would be more beneficial to you to potentially take the HUD offer. Interesting. What do we have? Andrew. Armand, could you focus some of your future content on WG blue collar side of the federal government? It is hard to find info. I work in telecom 2504 right now and it's great. Yes, I can, Andrew. The main reason that I focus all of it or most of it on GS is because GS makes up the majority of the federal government. So there's more of an audience for that type of content. But I've made a couple of videos on WG and I will consider doing more of that in the future. Thank you for your input. Kenny, what is a 6-month register roster? So if you see the word register or roster followed by 9, 12, 6, that means the agency, they're posting one job announcement to fill a lot of positions at different times. So maybe that roster position opens up today and many people are applying to it throughout the whole 6-month period or 9, 12-month period. People are applying to it, but the agency is they're only considering candidates like maybe once or twice a month. So right now we're in November. So maybe they're going to pull it once a month, once in November, twice in December, 3 times in January. They're interviewing people based on their need. And this is because they're anticipating losing people. People are retiring. There are other people that are quitting. So you're going to expect like a 10% churn. Like every year, 150,000 people leave the federal government. It's like almost a 10%. It's like a 15% churn. People are always leaving. And because of that, the agency doesn't want to waste the time and the energy and the effort to constantly posting these job announcements. It takes a lot of resources to always post the job announcements. So what's easier is to do it one time. Do it one time, hire 100 people. Because we know this year we're going to need at least 100 people. So that's what it means. So applying to one of these announcements is probably the absolute best use of your time because you're going to ensure that you're getting multiple considerations. So that's what that is. Okay. We got God's favor. I'm finding that a lot of the DH positions are, direct hire positions are local versus remote. I'm hoping there will be an increase in remote positions too. Yeah, I think right now on average, any given day, there's about 300 remote positions, and most of those are not going to be direct hire. Some of them are, though. I was looking yesterday and I found a few that were direct hire, but it depends on the job series that you're targeting. But yeah. Question: Sit, Vac, and now that I'm a GS 13, what advice do you have for success in career growth? Are there any recommended certifications or skills to pursue? My job series is 0080 Personal Security Specialist. Thanks. Okay. What will always be paramount in this situation is your experience. The more experience you can get as it relates, if you want to stay 0080, I don't know if you do or not. If you want to stay 0080, what I would do is I would look at all the GS14 job announcements for 0080 and see what they want. You know, there should be a consistent theme on the experience that they're looking for. Make sure that you have that experience. You don't want there to be a gap. So look one level above, see what they're requiring, see where you can fill your gaps. Maybe you don't want to be a 0080 as a GS14 or the opportunities are not there. A lot of jobs, they will convert to a 0301 when it comes to like leadership. So in your office right now, the deputy director could potentially be a 0301 or the director might be a 0301. So you want to make sure that you have the skills necessary. If your next step is deputy director, you want to see what does it take to be one. If you're not a supervisor right now, then you could benefit from taking some certifications on leadership, management, and supervisory skills. That could benefit you. If there's a detail opportunity that allows you to get that type of experience, I would jump all over that. But you basically want to see where your gaps are at and make sure that you're doing things in order to fill those gaps. But yeah, it's good that you're looking ahead. Okay. A. Perry, I tried applying for a customer service representative job. I'm a veteran currently in field childcare, and I want to transfer job skills into customer service. Help. Okay, you're a veteran. So what GS grade are you targeting? If you're targeting lower GS grade, then you being a veteran could potentially, if you have disability, any disability, or if you have any deployments, if you have a campaign badge, that could open up a non-competitive way for you to get put into a position without even competing on USAJobs.gov. So there's a lot more context. There's a lot more questions that need to be asked. But yeah, I would say for you, number one, focus on your resume. Number two, start exploring those veteran paths that might be open to you because there's a lot of different ways that you could potentially get a government job. Okay. God's favor. Can I purchase time for you for an interviewing session? Is that possible? Yes, I just did one of those 2 days ago. So there's a couple of ways you could do it. If you have an interview coming up, you can book a call and we could talk about strategy on how to make sure that you're answering the right questions the right way and you're prepared to go into it. Another thing is a mock interview. So I'll give a mock interview where I ask you questions based on the job announcement. I will record that. And then at the end of it, I'll send it to you and I'll give you my like critique and my feedback for that. So those are options as well. Good question. Mohammed, yes, after negotiation, they offered a higher level. Sorry, what you meant. Is it a red flag? So usually when a job, you don't negotiate your GS grade. You negotiate your step. So the grade should never fluctuate. That's why I said it was a red flag. It doesn't seem right. Something seems off. That's what I mean by that. Okay. Time to plug the book again. If you don't have the book, make sure you grab Government Job Secrets. You get it on Kindle, paperback, and also audiobook where I read the entire thing to you. There's an example resume in there for the 0500 job series. It looks like this. Let me hold it up to the camera and see if it comes into focus. Can I get that thing to focus? You see that? Yeah. So there's an example there that you can use. And there's, multiple success stories. And this can put you above. Man, listen, people get discouraged so much about so many people applying to government jobs. But you have to understand that over half of them are submitting garbage resumes. So they're not really your competition. So don't focus on that. Don't focus on the number. Focus on improving your resume, your situation the best that you can, and cut all that other confusion, noise, and loudness out. And stick to the plan. Keep applying daily. Detach yourself emotionally from the results. Yeah, sometimes you're going to get not referred. Sometimes you're going to get not selected. But you're going to get a better job opportunity if you stay consistent. That will happen. Kenny, okay. Kenny asks, is WG10 equivalent to GS10 as in time and grade? No. WG, there is no time and grade. Doesn't exist. In the WG, in the federal wage system, WG, WS, WL, there is no time and grade. Now, if you're a WG10 and your experience is relevant to a GS10 or a GS12 or a GS whatever, then you can apply. Don't get caught up in that, you know, are they equal? Just see, do I have the experience? I'm going to apply. You're not going to be found ineligible. So time and grade is not going to matter for you, okay? All right. Hey, I appreciate everyone spending some time with me. And, you know, all the links, if you need further assistance, the links are in the description below. Look forward to talking to you again. Next month, we'll do this again. When is it going to be? It's probably going to be right before New Year's, right? It's the last Sunday of the month. If you're not signed up to the newsletter, sign up down below. And yeah, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Hey, I know that there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I consume so much content when it comes to government job news. I'm on Government Executive. I'm on Fed Newsweek. I'm on all the major news websites, and I'm like digesting a lot of it. So it hits me pretty much the same way that it's hitting you. Like a lot of uncertainty. Like, what the heck is this? What are they talking about? But just keep in mind that it is uncertainty. That's what it is. There's nothing for certain. No matter who jumps on CNN and talks very, you know, authoritative, confidently about this is what's going to happen and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. That's not necessarily going to represent reality. We're going to have to see what happens at the end of January into February when they pass a full budget, what is going to be taking place. But I plan to stay well informed, and I'll keep on pumping out those videos to make you informed as well. But hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you next month. All right, bye-bye.